Please subscribe, like, and share. It really helps us out. And of course, if you have any questions, comment below and we will answer you as soon as we can.
World Bank President Ajay Banga has highlighted the urgent need for bilateral creditors to provide more debt relief to developing countries facing severe financial distress. Speaking ahead of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund's annual meetings, Banga emphasized that while the bank has offered billions in grants and low-cost loans, other creditors must also contribute. Over $16 billion in aid has been given to countries like Zambia, Ethiopia, and Ghana, but without broader debt forgiveness, these efforts might fall short. Debt relief is crucial for these countries as it reduces their repayment burden, freeing up resources for investment in vital sectors like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. The World Bank also exploring innovative solutions such as debt for development swaps, which would redirect funds saved from reduced debt payments to development projects. The issue of debt distress is significant because many developing nations borrowed heavily for development and to manage emergencies, often at high interest rates. These debts, compounded by external shocks like the COVID-19 pandemic and global economic shutdowns, have left countries struggling to meet repayments, hindering their economic progress. High debt levels reduce a country's ability to invest in development, causing slower growth, higher unemployment, and increased poverty. From this, students can understand how international debt impacts economic development and why debt relief is critical for growth. It shows the importance of international cooperation and innovative financial strategies to support sustainable development in vulnerable economies. Now it's time to think like an economist. Firstly, define debt relief. Secondly, explain why many developing countries are in debt. Thirdly, analyze how high debt levels affect a country's economic development. And lastly, discuss whether debt relief alone is sufficient to promote economic growth in developing countries. Okay, firstly, debt relief. Debt relief is a financial arrangement in which a creditor, such as a government, financial institution, or international body, reduces or cancels the debt obligations of the borrower. In the context of developing countries, debt relief often entails reducing the principal or interest on existing loans, restructuring the payment schedule, or forgiving part of the debt entirely. The goal is to alleviate the borrower's financial burden, allowing the country to redirect funds towards critical development rather than debt repayments. Secondly, why are many developing countries in debt? Many developing countries accumulate debt due to several factors. Firstly, development funding. Developing nations often borrow to fund infrastructure projects, education, healthcare, and other essential services that require large upfront investments, but are crucial for growth. Secondly, high-interest loans. These countries sometimes rely on high-interest loans from private creditors or bilateral lenders, making debt service costs unsustainable. Thirdly, economic shocks. External shocks such as falling commodity prices, natural disasters, or pandemics like COVID-19 can strain a country's economy, forcing it to borrow more to manage deficits. Fourthly, exchange rate volatility. Since loans are often in foreign currencies, fluctuations in exchange rates can increase the real cost of debt repayments. And finally, emergencies and political instability. Crisis situations like wars or political instability often prompt additional borrowing to stabilize economies and provide relief, further raising debt levels. Thirdly, let's analyze how high debt levels affect the country's economic development. High debt levels can severely hinder economic development. Firstly, reduced public investment. As more of a country's budget goes towards debt repayments, less funding is available for essential sectors like healthcare, education and infrastructure, slowing overall development. Secondly, slower growth. Debt obligations can lead to higher taxes and reduced government spending, depressing economic growth and private sector activity. Thirdly, increased poverty and unemployment. Reduced public investment and growth often lead to higher unemployment and poverty levels, worsening inequality in living standards. Finally, financial instability. High debt can limit a country's access to additional funding and make it vulnerable to external shocks, leaving little financial flexibility to respond to crises. Okay, finally, discuss whether debt relief alone is sufficient to promote economic growth in developing countries. While debt relief can provide immediate fiscal space, it is generally insufficient on its own to promote sustained economic growth. Debt relief must often be paired with additional strategies to foster economic resilience and long-term development. Firstly, improved governance and economic policies. Effective governance and sound economic policies are essential to ensure that the funds freed by debt relief are directed towards productive investment. Secondly, a diversified economy. Many developing countries often rely on limited number of exports, for example oil or minerals, making them vulnerable to commodity price fluctuations. Diversification can reduce dependence on external factors and foster stable growth. Thirdly, institutional reforms. Strengthening institutions, improving regulatory frameworks, and increasing transparency can make development efforts more effective and sustainable. And lastly, attracting private investment. Developing countries may need to encourage private sector growth and investment by ensuring a stable business environment, investing in human capital, and enhancing infrastructure. In summary, debt relief is a critical component in relieving financial pressure on developing countries, but it must be part of a broader, multifaceted approach that includes structural reforms, economic diversification, and sustainable investment strategies.
Thank you for watching our video. Please like, subscribe and share. And comment below so we can clarify things for you.